Hi, and welcome back to Lisa's Stamp Studio. My card today uses the stamp set called Above the Clouds, and I'm going to be using the coordinating hot air balloon punch. If you were here on Friday, I showed you 4 different ways to use punch that were not a hot air balloon. If you missed the video, I'm going to go ahead and link it down in the video description below so you can refer back to it. I love to show the versatility of this punch, but today I promised you a card using it in its traditional way. And this bright and cheerful card has actually got a fun technique tied to it, and I'm going to teach you all about it in today's video. If you're here visiting for the first time, I would love to encourage you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Click on the subscribe button down below, and while you're there, make sure you click on that small bell icon that's next to it. That will send you notifications of when I'm live here on YouTube, as well as when I upload a new video. Let's head over to the stamp table and let's get started on today's project. Here's a close-up of the card we're going to be creating together. Isn't this sharp? I love the color combination. It's bright and cheerful, and of course you can change the sentiment. This card uses the brand new stamp set that's debuting tomorrow in the new annual Stampin' Up! Catalog, and it's called Above the Clouds. Now you can purchase it individually or you can purchase it as a bundle, which would include the hot air balloon punch. You'll find both of those products in this new catalog. If you don't already have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator and you're interested in purchasing Stampin' Up! Supplies, I would be more than happy to send you a complimentary copy. You can contact me at lisasstampstudio.com. Click the Contact Me button, provide me your full name and mailing address. One of the very first things I want to show you is how to create a stencil for this punch. Oftentimes, these builder punches that have multiple images on them are difficult to stamp because when you go to place the cardstock in, the image where it needs to be punched is tipped or turned. To create a template, grab a piece of white cardstock and slip it down inside, and then go ahead and punch. You can discard the punch pieces or use them for another card, but this is the template for which you're going to use to stamp your pieces that you'll punch out. Let me give you an example. I have a piece of thick Whisper white cardstock here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide that up underneath it. Now I know that's going to be difficult to see since they're both white. I'll go ahead and use my Memento ink. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to ink up my stamp. And because this is a rather large image, I'm going to choose to move my stencil and just stamp this in about the same position. Lots of firm, even pressure so that you can trace out the details of that stamp. I'm switching over now to the basket image, and I'm going to line this back up so I have an idea of where the basket image itself is going to need to be stamped. Inking up that stamp, I will come right inside of here and I'll stamp inside that negative area. If you were going to stamp the banner, of course you could do that at the same time. Once your stencil has been created, save it for future projects. I place mine right inside the stamp case. I'm going to color mine in before I punch it out. I'm going to be using the Daffodil Delight Stampin Blends combo. The combo comes with both the light and the dark shade, or you can purchase them individually, which makes it very convenient. If you use one more often than the other, you're not forced to buy the combination again. I'm going to start with the lightest color first. The 2 tips are slightly different. The thin line indicates the chiseled or the more fine tip. The thicker line indicates the brush tip. Since I'm going to color in a very large area, I'm going to go ahead and use my brush tip, and I'm going to go ahead and add my color to that area. I'm switching now over to the darker shade, and this is where I'm going to add my definition. I know it doesn't look like much because the magic comes with going back to the light shade. We need to blend this once again to diminish those harsh lines between the 2 shades. I'll go back to the brush tip, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to swirl those colors together. You'll also notice an area here that I did not completely color in, just to create a highlight. I'm also going to use the light Bermuda Bay marker. I'm just going to color in the other areas straight up, no shading, and I'm going to use the chiseled end. One of the unique things about this stamp set is you can choose to color it in yourself, or you can use the solid image to color the balloons. The same holds true here with the small trio. There's one for the flag, and there's also one for the banner and the basket. So I'm going to switch over now to the crumb cake ink pad, and I've mounted the solid image of the basket. I'll go ahead and ink that up, and I'll stamp that inside. Now we'll come in with our punch, and I'll punch this image out. I'm going to bring in my silicone craft sheet, and now I'm going to assemble the basket to the balloon. I'm going to use my take your pick pickup tool. I love this putty end. And then what I'll do next is I'll grab a glue dot, and then I'm going to work that glue dot on the back of my basket, and I'm going to press that in place. And then I'll use my paper piercing tool attachment that comes with the take your pick tool, and I'll go ahead and attach that here to the bottom of my balloon. Adhesive, glue dots, liquid glue, and hot glue will not stick to this, which makes it a great companion here in the stamp studio. I'm going to flip that over and I'm going to ready this with some dimensionals. I've got my full-size dimensionals here at the top. The one thing about the thick Whisper White cardstock is you'll find that your image will blend a lot better. In addition to that, it's going to have a more vibrant color to it because of the density of the paper. And then I'm going to use one of those mini dimensionals. I'm going to pick that up with my piercing tool. That'll help me. And I'll place that right here on the back of the basket. Now that's all set to go for the rest of our card once we're ready. I have a piece here of Coastal Cabana cardstock, and I'm going to punch a circle. And I'm going to be using the 2-inch circle punch. I'm going to bring this up right inside the card, and I'm going to go in as far as I can, all the way from the bottom. And I'm looking to leave a little bit of margin of paper on the left side. So I'm going to scoot this over to make sure I have enough room, and then I'll punch. While I have my black ink pad out, I'm going to go ahead and add my greeting that says, "Let your dreams soar." This is great for graduation, promotion, or retirement. And I'm going to stamp that down here in the bottom right corner. I'm going to do a little bit of paper piercing, and I'm bringing in the pierce mat. You want to protect your work surface because we're going to use the paper piercing tool attachment that's here on the Take Your Pick tool. I love this because you can dial this out and you can change it up to the other accessories that come with this tool. It's $10. It comes with a dual-sided stylus tool and of course the small little spatula, which you can see is well loved. It helps me get up underneath the adhesive or dimensionals if I've placed them in the wrong place. Helps me to shift and reposition them. But the paper piercing tool is what I'm going to use now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a series of pierce marks around the sun. I'm going to work with the first one just close to the edge, and I'm going to make small pierce marks going around. Now that those are made, I'm going to add 2 additional rows around those same circles. I'll do my best to line them up. It doesn't have to be perfect. I have a piece of Daffodil Delight cardstock here. I've scored it just ahead of the video, so I'm going to go ahead and fold that in half. I'm a big fan of that bone folder for a nice crisp crease. This now will get mounted here. Now you can choose to use dimensionals, but if you do, I want to give you a couple warnings. Make sure on the back side that you're not going to be placing them over those pierced openings, otherwise they risk showing through. And the reason I didn't use dimensionals is because I would have to place them here, otherwise the card would sag in the center. So I'm going to flip this over. I'm going to bring in my silicone craft sheet once again, and I'm going to work around the perimeter of my card with my adhesive. Now I'm going to be a lot more generous than I typically am, and you're going to see how I've left a small margin of adhesive here. This is why the silicone craft sheet is so wonderful, because any excess that falls on here will not stick like it would on my work surface. So I'll turn and I'll add more adhesive here in the corner and then all along this edge and then up the side. I'm also going to add a little extra here around the outside of my piercing. I'm going to come over here to the card base and I'm looking to leave a small margin of that daffodil color all the way around. And then I will flip and turn from the back and burnish from the outside edges. I want to make sure I don't flatten out those paper piercing holes. Now our hot air balloon is really cute by itself, but it's even cuter if you can add a vellum cloud. I have a piece of vellum cardstock here. I'm going to give you some tips. Because vellum is very thin and opaque, I find that it doesn't punch well. This is the Pretty Label punch, and I thought it made the perfect cloud formation. So as a tip for you, go ahead and take a scrap piece of cardstock. You can even use an index card, but you want something with a little bit of weight behind it. Double it up, and then go ahead and use your punch. I'll line that up, and I'll just punch that out. I'll separate those pieces, so now I have my perfect vellum shape. This is going to get mounted here. Keep in mind too with vellum that your adhesive or dimensionals will often show behind that opaque paper. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back here to that hot air balloon and I'm going to take off the paper backing to those dimensionals. I'm going to hold this one with my finger because I don't want it to stick to the card just yet. And then I'm going to place this exactly where I want it. I'm going to put this on the diagonal. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this over. And this now is the area that I can put my adhesive on. Using my silicone craft sheet, once again, I'll take my adhesive and I'll run it inside that area that's going to be hidden behind the hot air balloon. And then I'll go ahead and take this and adhere this where I'd like it on my card. And then I'll press that in place and then rub from the back to burnish it. Cute, isn't it? And really quite simple. Here's the card we made together today. Here's the one I made before you joined me. Do you see the slight variation? The circle on this one is slightly higher. This one's a little bit lower. My greeting is in a different placement. No two cards are ever perfectly alike, so embrace those changes. If you have enjoyed today's video, please give it a thumbs up here on YouTube. It makes them and I both very happy, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great day.